Welcome, everyone. So glad you're here for a beautiful afternoon of poetry. We've got three, Peter Crowley, Kirun Kapur, and Jennifer Militello reading today, and then the open mic. There's also a question and answer period, so save up your questions while you're listening to the poets reading, and at the end of their session, we'll see what you are curious about or interested in expressing about their work. First, we have Peter F. Crowley. He's an independent writer from the Boston area. His poetry book, Those Who Hold Up the Earth, was released by Kelsay Books in 2020. Other work of his can be found in Pif Magazine, Galway Review, Opiate Magazine and Counterpunch, among other publications. You ready, Peter?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks for having me again, NEPC folks, and looking forward to hearing everyone else read. This one is called Onset of Fall. It's from my book that came out last year, Those Who Hold Up the Earth. As the breeze pours and purrs by 1890s vehicle and rises through hair and body, as though being were invisible and appearance a transient moment. The dry, cool air brings together scattered pockets of wizened fall leaves, a presage of plant life seasonal decay. The onset of fall invades the air, but the ocean waves that crash you into the sand, causing bathing suit pockets to fill up with it, in which tiny mole crabs crawl. This ocean, driven by wind and mild fury, hurricane aftershock. This ocean still feels like summer. This one is called What We Know, We Already Know. They ate October for lunch, wiped their lips with handkerchief, and drew a map of the world. Ginsberg's Gog and Magog haunted mirrors, forgotten gaze, and ate salad as an afterthought. What we know, we already know. What we know, we already know. We already know what we know. It is imperishable, like the taste of guava on a Dhaka morning, with heat on the seat and war on the roads. Doesn't break down from tiny black hole slices in the mirror's gulping Adam's apple, nor from the stinking putrid odor of truth. It will tell us where we are in the GPS, even if we lurk in a city fathoms away. And when we say that we'll live forever, Gog and Magog clap, not without a hint of irony, behind the marauding theater curtain, drawn during a restless sleep. This one is called White Terrorist. Jim Crow wore a wide-brimmed, dust-colored hat as he rocked back and forth on hot summer porch. When he saw the feds coming, forcing his kids to mix with blacks in Little Rock, he aimed his rifle, but did not shoot. Instead, he donned white in the night and had himself a hoot. Years later, his son watched bodegas deluge his town, while Sharia threatened to become law of the land. Where are ye, my white brothers? He bellowed into forlorn night. No one answered. They were working double shifts at Walmart. On the internet, he penned manifestos that spoke of the flood of the black, brown, and hijab. He, as Noah, would build a ship and save everyone. But no one was listening. At least not enough, he thought. He needed to make a mark, make a real deliverance. So he grabbed his automatic rifle and set off for deliverance. The dead at the Little Rock Unitarian Church numbered in the dozens, mostly children, white and brown. The cops came, but fired not a shot. From his prison cell, he reckoned he made his point. He would not let the flood tear white America down. This one is called Time's Recurrence and Vanishing. An effervescence epoxy sits on tawdry shelves in void environs of absence. With a click of the heels, fairies emerge from Yeats's brain, dwelling in Northwest Ireland's coastal midst. Neath skies that turn from sun-gazing fields of sheep meadow to abrupt maelstrom rains that soon again yield azure. The fairies perform a celly dance around the sleeper's head. The sleeper, head resting on recurrent pillow, dreams of imbibing liquid coal from a tornado-shaped funnel. Meanwhile, the dead, in their closed-eye, deep soil stare, provide feed for beetles and maggots, while their hydroxyapatite dust fuels soil fecundity. The amorphous fairies leap from hillside to hillside, yielding farrow in the dead's moonshadowed wake. In turn, Pharaoh is raised by keepers of the land, the agriculturalists, who rear them to a ripe age until they're slaughtered and eaten. The night following the feast, farmers sit up all night with family and friends, recounting stories of sea-dipped past where Coleridge's albatross lingers still, burdened by the weight of time, not released until narrative memory fades into the darkened, empty evening of the passing waves of generations. And this is the title poem. I'm gonna have a quick sip of water. It's called Those Who Hold Up the Earth. There are people who hold up the earth with raised soil-drenched arms held high in herniated discs. They are weary, their gaze diminished by the underground's thick, dark haze. Are they rickshaw puller, or do they pave the road he rides upon? Are they dishwasher, the stink of sodden food permeating wrinkled hands? Sometimes when the world grows more weighty, when teeth rip open the stomach of dreams and the outside is dispossessed of any allure, the ground they hold forces them to hunch over, their backs nearly breaking. But somehow they still manage to hold up the earth. This one is called Exclusion. Dead bird told to go home and follow the tigers to Anatolian plains. There it was told, turn eastward towards Armenia and head onward to Eurasian steppe, where dead birds can fraternize without looming boulders, waiting to pound their skulls. Should they try to cross invisible lines into spacious rooms of vaunted crests and gilded chandeliers, where sit men with the slay of the hand can cause livelihoods and families to be banished to homeless tents by highway sides, somewhere near the formerly bountiful, now drained marshlands of the southern Mesopotamian alluvium, where the state sucked the life from marsh Arabs decades ago. So a dead bird may think, is it better to be a corpse, appreciatively fraternizing on Eurasian steppe, than to live in highway side tent with the hum of traffic exiling sleep, making days ghost-like, in which one haunts the many passerby with desperate pleas for coins? And this one's a little lighter one. It's called Mint, my cat's name. Her lion eyes, pupils enlarge, half upside down, she hisses then coughs, trying to bite my finger. She's not yesterday's weak horizontal cat who, after spewing tufts of hair and intestinal water from her mouth, lay slothfully on the porch chair. And once she's captured my finger in her mouth, unlike Kalahari lion, she lets go, eagerly kicking it away with vibrant legs. Yesterday we were worried. Over 12 hours after puking, she continued to lay still. Would she not leap again towards the open door in hopes of chasing sparrows, only to end up cowering under a driveway car? Evening came, and with it lingered the day's sultry heat. We sat outside for a bit, sipping beer. In the window, looking out at us, a brown furry face appeared. With half-closed eyes, she watched us stoically, like a Sufi in Murakaba. The heat drove us back inside, where we heard her munching and crunching, her face buried in the food bowl. Then she slowly walked towards us, stretched and yawned, as though releasing a Sisyphean boulder. Mint was back. This one is called Old City. Jerusalem, city of recurring dreams, how I miss your shrouded morning alleyways with sun peppering into the old city's facade. Walking in circles late at night after briefly interrogated by Israeli soldiers stationed at 2 unofficial checkpoints, with shops closed and streets empty, I found it hard to find Hebron Hostel. I use the city as a place of incubating rest, while during the day I go on green olive tours to Ramallah, Bethlehem, and Jericho. Some days I leave for the night to Akko and Masada. But the old city with warmth amidst contestation, I'd often dream. Sitting outside Zion Gate, eating Jewish bagels, swilling Arabic coffee at the Palestinian-owned hostel, resting outside Damascus Gate with tourists, locals, and a reporter mulling over how to depict the city within a wider narrative of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. The first day, arriving from Tel Aviv, walking endlessly around the old city's perimeter, searching for an entrance, ended up meandering through a Palestinian neighborhood, past where the City of David archaeological site is, sweating endlessly from the heat and hill climbs, Fanta, the savior. Once inside the old city, a Bedouin gave me a tour to places I would have stumbled upon anyways, which soon ended up at his friend's shop. By the time I left the city, the shopkeepers who'd harangued me on the first day and sometimes drew me into their shop no longer paid me any mind. I had developed a brisk walk amidst the throng, racing Palestinian children who had walked nearly as fast as, serious-faced imams and rabbis contemplating orations to believers, Christian Orthodox ministers with long black robes and flowing beards, Christian tourists with wide cultic eyes and finally reaching the promised land, women in hijabs and burqas, children with long payut. I took the Sharut in early morning through the nearby hills of West Jerusalem suburbs to Tel Aviv, where I rode a taxi to Jaffa. After traversing a popular waterway walk, I went to an art gallery and then sat at a bar for a final drink before leaving for a 5 a.m. flight home. At the bar, the young male and female bartenders were friendly. When will you come back, they asked. And the young woman asked how long I was staying. When I mentioned that my Bangladeshi girlfriend wasn't allowed into the country, they looked surprised. But why? I smiled while responding, enjoying the live, heavily Arab-influenced music. That night, a Peruvian checked me into a Tel Aviv hostel where I'd take a 2-hour nap before heading to the airport. He told me of the racism he encountered and his desire to end a temporary work study there for Berlin. At 2 a.m., I arrived at the Ben Gurion airport and stood in the long, security-intensive lines. This one is called Sickness. Life measured in breath spaces that light tinsel candles and shut off as midnight's darkness caresses pastoral landscapes before idly tossing them into the sea, is dimly lit in time when the body fights with white blood cell night, insurrections taking the shape of Viking lances that carve their initials into the gut. As the body wars, eyelids cake up, and the furrowed brow hangs low over vision, while the eyeball is rained upon with ocular bloodstorm. Where is the self then, when vision is haunted by a looming pendulum in the pit every inch of one's abode? Does it play dead like a Tower of London raven? Or does it sleep under thick swaths of white bandages, waiting for temporal relief when the raven flies out from the tower and is showered in raining juniper light, where for a moment it's not weighed down by the prisoner's cinder block cells, nor by the torturer's leering eyes behind dungeon door? I have a few more, and then listen to others. This one is called The God's Return. The rain takes pain to remind us of its downfall. Gravity's water pellets cascade onto luminous roofs, sounding like a termite with a million cinder block legs. Outside, droplets on skin, at first isolated, then new liquid skin forms. Clothes slowly dampen. The car ride, a windshield wiper battle for clarity. Destination reach. And inside, the god's heavy insect legs barrel down upon the roof. There's a comfort in knowing that the gods who departed for intergalactic travel have returned, and gazes exchanged with passerby confirm that we're no longer desolate amidst ice shapes, carving cathedral spaces on websites and requesting sunny days from Alexa. This one is called Whistle and Die, slightly bleak. Get old, whistle and die. Our machines are not made to last the test of time. Breath coarsens, lungs break, heart slow drips like the rainstorm's end. The night's darkness swoops down with vulture talons, tightening the bamboo cage, and there are no thoughts other than killing the bird. Get old, whistle and die. Our bodies are not made to stand for this circus. The acrobat wears an inverted thorn jacket, the lion tamer blindfolds, and the elephants stampede the crowd. Entangled in vulture talons, the bird patiently waits for dinner. The once illuminated azure is swathed in brown coffee stains. The spouse is with them and a fellow torturer. A walk upstairs is a 3-hour football practice under August's bleeding hot sun. Get old, whistle and die. What kind of opium will mitigate the pain? Netflix escapist vacuums, the priest's sunny words of a bright tomorrow, the family's earthly glow of love and genetic perpetuity, the rationalist's defiant war with God, morphine's incubating cuddle. Get old, whistle and die. Here today and tomorrow, we'll see. And here's the last one I have. It's called Gaia. Water flows through sapping leaves and dangling vines, and the earth resonates in deep breaths. and self-sustaining Gaia folds in upon itself with corrective breezes of eternal recurrence. In the repopulation of Yellowstone with wolves, who through their integral bond with the ecosystem turn fallow ground into verdant land. And the lawnmowers moan, calling to mind lost industrial age jobs and their replacement. The bleeding hum of office building silence peppered by plodding fingers on typing keyboard. The lawnmower scratch on acoustical chalkboard is buried under thick leaves of maple and oak. And an elderly man delights in the curiosities and charms of growing old, and a youth defiantly cackles while playing chicken on narrow roads and speeds away from cops. And death, a return to an earth that vibrates at the seams with life. Thank you. Looking forward to hear others.
Thank you so much, Peter. That was fabulous. I love starting with an a late season ocean swim. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, now you can do it with the weather.
I know, it's incredible. All right, well, we'll go on to Kirun Kapur. Her latest book is Women in the Waiting Room, Black Lawrence Press 2020. A finalist for the National Poetry Series and Julie Suk Award and the Massachusetts Book Award. She serves as editor at the Beloit Poetry Journal and teaches at Amherst College, where she is director of the creative writing program. Welcome, Kirun.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Linda. It's lovely to be here with all of you. It's a very nice way to spend a Sunday afternoon. Hearing everyone's beautiful work. I'm going to start at the beginning, both in the sense that this is the first poem in the book, and in the sense that this is a first story, a foundational story. This poem thinks about the great Hindu epic poem, the Ramayana, which, as some of you probably know, is not just about its namesake, Lord Ram, but also about his wife, Sita. And in the course of the poem, Sita is carried away by a demon. On looking at myself in the mirror, or rereading Valmiki's Ramayana, anyone can disappear across the black water. Every girl can be taught. Her middle name is shame. When will I burn the urge for purity? My bones are a furnace. My face is a game. Every girl steals away with a demon at some point. All her alphabets, ankle bells, all her braids. She will meet herself in the third person. She will lie with her fear. She will dress in her rage. The world is curdled with husbands, blue as the gods, and gentle as flame. Hotline. I have been trained. So when she says, I watched my father smash my mother's forehead with a broom handle, I show no sign of shock. The poet liked to say, you shouldn't borrow sorrow, write real things, dishpans, porch screens, broom handles, give me a humble trash bag. For years, this face, I trained my mind to unsee, cheek eaten away by fish, girl body washed up in the canal, wrapped, the brand identified as glad. No scars, birthmarks, clothes, jewelry. 5'2", 133 precisely, my own height and weight. Police were saying, was she sure it was a broom handle, metal or wooden? We need the details right. How could a wooden handle do all that? The poet suggests, make it a skillet. I'd believe he killed her with a skillet, if you must. On the page, I describe lilies wilting in a vase because I have been trained, because you have been trained. Can you believe? 6 glistening stamens, smashed rust velvet anthers. I grew up in Hawaii, and people always say, oh, Hawaii is so beautiful. And in fact, it is exactly that beautiful, but it's also a lot of other things. And this poem thinks a little bit about that. Girls, girls, girls. Along the strip in Waikiki, past sailor bars and clubs, where the length of beach, where lipstick sunset smudged and magazines would shoot and caption paradise. Past posh hotels, where M and I would wait for some nice man to buy us a drink from the bar. We'd watch the women walk like they were stars on stage, dress like they couldn't wait to be undressed, leaning over into idling cars. Out on the west side of the island, Jay tells me any man she dates is more likely to hit her than pay for her dinner. Teenagers holding babies spit at us when we stare. What you looking at? You got nothing. I have nothing, sobs L today on the phone. I know it isn't my fault, but when I think of how I let him do it over and over, even helped him cover it up, I hate myself. I'm thinking of the man who owned the noodle shop, the man who'd always sit with me and chat about Hanoi, warm water in canals, moms on bikes with babies tied down front and back, how to tell a ripe papaya. I saw him on the news a few years back for smuggling women in refrigerated trucks. He owned the bar called Girls, 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 a few doors down from where he served me pho, the one whose sign was made of neon legs that kicked and kicked until they were a stain of light. We liked to swim along the South Shore when the tide was right. You had to time your dive or crack your head against the reef. More than once, a girl washed up. Sometimes they named her on the news. M and I drank kamikazes on the lanai of the new Sheraton, the chief of security coming out to check we were the right sort of girls, regaling us with stories of the wallets stolen off of businessmen by ladies visiting their rooms, a theft they'd later blame on the hotel maid. I hate Elle's voice, mine. When I think of how many times have I said it? How many times have I said nothing at all, or tried to explain why we aren't at home, the right sort of girl and the wrong, why we're all out under the orange streetlights. This is called Red Lily's Guzzle, and you'll hear the form. A chain of crushed nouns has upended my mind. It's okay, it's all right, pretended my mind. A quick cut, a small nick, a surgical touch. Oh, pentadine, tramadol, so splendid, my mind. Ram drew back the string of King Janak's great bow. Sita shot through the lifetimes and tended my mind. Monkeys and blossoms, a long metal spine. In the void, Frida's paintings befriended my mind. 5 parrots dive bombing the pilkin tree. A sharp song, a green wingspan extended my mind. The boat swamped with water. She lost hold of his hand. Now she waits for a country that's abandoned its mind. Red lilies lie drowned in a blizzard of snow. Dear world, your bright terms have offended my mind. What I, which she, who's writing this self, A girl, years of girls have escaped from my mind. This goes back to that first story from the Ramayana. Waiting for sleep, I imagine Sita in her youth. She hid all day in a tree, ate guavas rubbed with salt and pepper, stalked the long-haired cat, begged for rotis, ghee, and sugar, watched as her mother dressed, bangles stacking her arms like gauntlets. From the window, she could see women from every corner of the city walk into the river, disappear, then rise clean, saris soaking. She drank milk from a hammered brass cup. Around her, aunts, cousins unrolled their sleeping mats. Of course, a woman oiled her hair. Of course, a woman lined her eyes. The inner world was made of women. They filled her stomach, mouth, breath. What do I need to see embroidered in my mind's own dark? This girl, young enough to fall asleep. This dream taking her into its current. So we might both rise ready to ring out the story. We'll finish with a last poem that's inspired partly by where I live now. We live in a town with two rivers that go through it. And when we first moved here and continuing now, I find myself obsessed with the river, with watching it. And this poem comes a little bit from that. Let me be as a river. Nothing but motion, muck-mouthed, mud-hearted, brackish, all dirty at the lip, with rise and fall that exposes hull-gouging stones. No curiosity about source, no knowledge of destination, just willingness to bear anything right to the end. 1 hour wrinkled, 2 hours smooth, duck-fouled, trash-choked, silent, then gossiping under a full red moon. Let me be dredged when the leggy girls go missing, used for a slow cruise, churned for speed, reeking of the unseen ocean, or veiled in the scent of pine trees. A fog in the head, then clear as the tip of a pin. Enough beauty to draw blood, enough anger to strip the banks, enough fullness to carry the pleasure boats high. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kieran. That was beautiful and exquisitely handles so many difficult topics there. So next we have Jennifer Militello. And she is the author of The Pact by Tupelo Press, Shearsman Books, 2021. The memoir Knock Wood, winner of the Dzanc Nonfiction Prize, 2019, and 4 additional poetry collections. Her work has appeared in American Poetry Review, Best American Poetry, Best New Poets, The Nation, The New Republic, the Paris Review, and Poetry. You there, Jennifer?
I'm here. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you to the New England Poetry Club for welcoming me today. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. And it's a real pleasure to read with Kieran and Peter. So I'm going to read from The Pact today. It is my new book. I will maybe just put the link in the chat so that it's there. That is the bookshop.org link. It's also obviously available on Amazon, but this, as I'm sure you know, this link supports independent bookstores. So the Pact is a book that deals with complex love in many manifestations, but the main themes sort of running through it are romantic love and the love of family. And I'm sure most of us have experienced at least one of these two types of relationships. So I'm sure you understand that sense of complexity that exists there. I'm going to begin with the punishment of one is the love song of another. At last I have found my assassin. At last I have struck gold. When my past hissed with cobras, you let me sleep. When I was falling, you brought the ground closer and made gravity of flowers like a kiss. One body moving is a seduction. One body is a practiced leap and a parachute unsprung. Only the scalpel knows the passion of blood. We soothe it with cold and sing it to sleep. We leap at the chance to be blistered. We listen and stiffen, we pivot and reap. My rib cage could be a wasp nest built of paper. My hand could be the slip of sand across itself to slake the great unknown. Snow coughs along the windows now and listens differently to the pure. Snow brocades like cotton, prayers like burdens go. So one of the pieces that sort of moves through the book is this examination of the relationships that we have with members of family. And this next poem, Lineage is Its Own Religion, sort of explores that sense that, you know, we are in families and there's a sense of the organized religion about them, in that they are sort of places that we inhabit and we're worshiping at a particular altar of sorts, sometimes whether it's in our best interests or not. So this is Lineage is Its Own Religion. I was an apostle to the group of you, strangers who had known me since I was born. I ate of your flesh, I drank of your blood, sipped the elixir of your moods, put the remainders in the tabernacle, wiped the goblet clean with a cloth. The crosses branded into the wafers were your voices branded onto my heart. I heard you live forever. I heard you rise. The bones of you yield to the memory of flesh, and we count our blessings and also bless. We are bright in anticipation of death. We are living like fishers and set against waste, and the taste is bitter, left in our mouths. I am dying. I am dead. Lord of the losses, Lord of the faith. I take each breath and my chest expands. Now I stand knee deep in the muck, unable to move, and if I dip my hands in, they will fill with bracken and all the thickness of each formless face. Kicking up stones until you are gone, mythic lisp, the lip shape. One day you vanish like a flash, confessions in a dark room, firmaments to read and spin like dice. I genuflect twice at the edge of your pews. I kiss the book for you. This is what the word of family can do. Sit at the round table, break bread. In the beginning, the loveless made the world and saw that it was good. There are a series of sibling poems in the book as well. And I will read Sibling Medusa. I I think it's important to remember that Medusa was a victim as well as a monster. And I think that's one of the pieces it's easy to forget. Sibling Medusa. In the pictures, the hair snakes all look the same, though I know better. Every snake is a different persona, though all are out for murder. Every hiss is a criticism unfettered. Every head is a hatred on its leash. Every slither is a movement toward hurting me further, like our mother. I learned long ago to only approach you from the mirror. Your scales overlap. They have the phalanx of your heart. All my shields crumble. All my winged shoes fail. You are my sister. My love for you is a ladder. I climb until I fall. There is a Red Sea in my blood, and it is your mood, venomous at root, ever changing as a god. There is a Red Sea in my blood, and I must keep it still, as its tides would drown us, as our parents still hope we will break bread. We believed you were a priestess. We put you on the urns. We lifted you up and loved you alone. Now you are a monster and want me gone. Were I to carry it as a weapon, your head would turn on me. I am only one of the statues that surround your lair. All of our family is there, posed and still, paralyzed by your punishment, your scathe, your skill. Where I had my home, I am no longer at home. I was closest. I was in your crib. I was in your bed. I wore your clothes. I shared your name. Is this why you hate me? Is this why I now see the deadly inside red of 1,000 stretched open mouths? Your serpents control me. Your eyes are voiced over. I don't know you. Where is my sister? So I will switch gears away from family and just read. I think I will read. So there is this really terrific used bookstore up the hill from where I teach at New England College. And it's one of those amazing bookstores where you go in and it is a maze. There are shelves and rooms and staircases, and you can go in there and you can get lost. And suddenly you're at the counter with $700 worth of books. Yes, old number 6. So it is incredible. And I spend way too much time there and way too much money there. But one of the things I love most about it is that it has this little secret pocket in one of the back rooms where there are a whole bunch of weird dictionaries. And so there's this one book that I picked up there, the Classical Dictionary of the Vulgar Tongue. And it just has all these really interesting terms. And one of the things that I found as I went through it is that there are many really interesting insults, like old lists of sort of old insults. So in keeping with this sense that occasionally in our families, we are confronted with, with people who would potentially say things about us that we may not love. This is a poem constructed of some of these insults from the book. Some are invented, sort of brought under the umbrella of that sense of tough love. So this is tough love in a vulgar tongue. She is baker-legged, a bad bargain, bacon-fed, user of the back door. She squints like a bag of nails. She is an admiral of the narrow seas. She is adrift, a spoil sport, a mar-all aground. She often goes against the grain. She is angling for farthings. She is full of emptiness, a fumbler, funky, a fussock. What a gill flirt, what a rum-dubber. Gimlet-eyed with thingamabob, she squeaks in the gizzard. She steals goods for sale. She is humdrum, hubcapped, impure. She would no sooner hush the cull than murder the fellow. She's a hussy, a hizzy. She's got the blue devils loafing as a couple of inkle weavers, like an owl in an ivy bush cesspool needing to be pumped. A girl with two black eyes, chattering like a magpie, pulling off her boots. Who could know what to do? She is a jingle brains, a jackhammer, a Jason's fleece is even left-handed. Pug-nosed, pudding-sleeved, purse-proud, puzzle text, pupil-monger, quail-pipe, quack-solver, queer cove. Rabbit-catcher, ramsackle, rascal scouring the streets, more brawn than brains, timber-toe, tickle-pitcher, toe-row, nimble-tongued. Unlicked cub, unrigged, untrussed, whining, whittler, whistlebelly, whippersnapper, wiseacre, wolf in the stomach, wordpecker, zigzag or zany, Zad only a mother could love. So I will just read 2 more and we'll return to some of these poems dealing with romantic love. This is Idolatry. My lover, butterfly on a pin, sickness in a church, worship that will stick, fuse that will not filament, grittiness to burn. My lover is the knife edge or half threat, the fire sip or godsend. My lover is the hemlock I drop in the glass. Facts I can't believe, is a casino bet or a dog year or an early death. On his knees like his mistress wants, on his knees my master wins. We reenact the stations of the cross. We cry the way doves in mourning call. I want to bite so deeply he bears a scar. I want him to hurt with me as the cause. I want him to bleed secretly, silently, like a bullet hole that only seems a bruise. I want there to be no remedy or 911 call. Do I want to kill him? I can't be sure, but I want our small city preserved. I want a Pompeii of bones I can show off. I want destruction like a temple we can bury in ash. I want terracotta warriors lined up. I want mummies if in chemicals lethal if sipped, scarabs in the chest. I want x-rays to find out how we were posed, what jars were filled, what water we poured. Through his cheek, a worm or root. Through his hands, a tar or frost. Through his ribs, split by insects or weeds. I remember the tender O of his mouth. And I'm going to end with a poem that sort of deals with the cult at Jonestown. So when we think about Jonestown, what we think about are a group of people usually who chose to, commit suicide as a group. And we have that phrase, drank the Kool-Aid. But when we look deeper into what happened at Jonestown, it becomes clear that it was not as straightforward, not as simple as that. So 909 people died at Jonestown. Many of them were children, and many of them died against their will. So there were people who were murdered there. Jim Jones had them sign compromises, which were blank sheets of paper. So they would put their signature on a piece of paper and he would use these compromises to hold them to agreements that they hadn't yet made. And this was how he kept many of them at the compound. They also did what were called white nights, which were sort of practice suicide sessions. So they drank the Kool-Aid many times and didn't die before the night that they actually drank the Kool-Aid. And there is one moment in this poem that is a quote from Jim Jones, and I think you'll hear it when it's read. This is If Our Love Were Jonestown. We would sign our compromises, not knowing what they say, and in this way pledge to stay, and in this way create a cult for two. We would give up all we want and are, emptied syringes surrounding buckets of drink. The unwilling in us would be injected with poison or shot. The promise of joy would lead us. There'd be a house at the head of the hive of houses telling us what we thought. Children would emerge from the jungle with jungle in their eyes, with their eyes wide and hands crusted with dirt. Children would disappear into the jungle, their lips stained. We would rest beneath the churned up soil, among the empty cigarette packs, among animal bones, an arrowhead, torn carpet and damaged tile. Love would be 12 miles long and 7 miles wide, the size of something that could have been real and turned out to be a lie. Our white nights would be so white, none of us would get out alive. We'd endanger ourselves with what we believe, with how we follow, what we feel is our leader, and the real paranoia. All the drills will have us thinking we'll live through it, but we won't in the end. Now I know I can trust you, my darlings. Go now, sleep tight. Tight is how we'll sleep. Our breath in our chests, nothing let out. They'll come around with stethoscopes to be sure we are dead. If not, we are shot. But we are them. We kill the children inside us first, and this is why we die. We want to belong. We perfect believing. We perfect trust until it kills the children, until it kills us. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer, so much for elevating our understanding of tough love. And let's unmute ourselves and give a round of applause for everyone. And I hope some of you have saved up your questions and comments for the poets who've just read. Anybody want to add a thought or a question? Let me see, I gotta view the gallery. There we go. I love reading the pull quotes that people have in the chat. Enough beauty to draw blood. What poem was that? Kirun? Yeah. The authors should unmute themselves so they can answer questions. Anybody have a question? You can just jump in.
That Adam is asking in the chat, can you say more about the Pact? So the Pact is a book about love. It is a little bit of a book written in resistance to some of the ways that love is sort of presented in our culture. I think there's a lot of positive pressure put on love that it's going to be the thing that saves us and cures us, and I think that really ignores the fact that a lot of times relationships, even good relationships, are complex, and relationships that are unhealthy are relationships that sort of can really twist us up. So it's a book about family. It's a book about love affairs. And the title poem is a longish poem that deals with the mother-daughter relationship. And pact comes from the Latin word to fasten. So if you think about the fact that we fasten seatbelts, we fasten mittens to coats of children. It's not necessarily a positive term. It is a sense that you're clasping something in a way that is inescapable. So it's a book that really just thinks about the nature of those attachments and the ways that they work, and those complexities. So thanks for asking.
There's another one for you there. Tell us why you chose to write about Jonestown.
Sure. So I guess one of the things, in keeping with what I've just said, one of the things I was interested in is relationships that are romantic relationships that can be obsessive relationships. There is also sort of culturally a sense that we have to really be consumed by one another, and that there is the one, and there is a sense that the extremity of those relationships is potentially a positive thing, and it is potentially a positive thing. But I started to think about the possibility that the nature of some relationships becomes obsessive to the point where people are so intertwined with one another that they are potentially endangered in ways. And at the same time, I saw an article about Jonestown that talked about the realities of what had happened there, and how it was really different from the sense that everyone had. And I thought, as I said, families are like organized religion. Sometimes maybe love affairs are cults. And so I just really wanted to explore that extended metaphor through the poem. So thank you for the question.
Nice. I have one for Peter. Would you say that your works are, some of them seem surrealist? Does that define some of your poems in your mind?
Yeah, I would say, at least in part, they kind of go back and forth between surreal and realism. Even within a poem, it might be like surrealist image counterposed with a realist image.
And how do you see that? I don't know. What prompted that choice?
I think I've always been interested in surrealism, and that's always influenced me. And I think, to some extent, automatic writing is something I try to start with in the morning if I try to write, and then I might edit afterwards. Of course, automatic writing isn't always a good result, but I think that's the starting point, going from there and adjusting.
Thank you. Kirun, can you tell us about the creative writing life in Amherst, at Amherst?
Sure. It is a college with a very long writing history. Obviously, going back to Dickinson, who lived just across the street from the college, and there's a beautiful museum there that you can visit. Not at the moment, I think it's closed, but generally you can visit. And then, of course, Frost and Wilbur and so many poets have been at Amherst. So there's a long tradition there that I think continues to today. There's a great love among students for writing and for all kinds of writing programs. And the whole valley, actually, I should say. There are 5 colleges in the valley, so it's not just Amherst, but UMass has an amazing program. Smith has Sylvia Plath's typewriter. There's just great stuff everywhere. Brodsky was at Holyoke. There's just a long, wonderful tradition in that area.
Your classes must be lively.
They are.
Nice. Thank you. And thank everyone for that wonderful reading. Does anyone else have a question? I think we're almost ready to go on to the open mic.
Yeah, I was just curious to hear from Peter and Kirun about the role of narrative in their work, and just wondering if you also write in other genres as well. Interesting.
I guess, yes, I write short fiction, and I'm actually working on a novel right now. I typically just write poetry, but I'm working on a fiction that I've been working on for about 2.5 years, and trying to figure out where to go with it. But definitely in kind of magic realism, surrealism meets kind of autobiography and teen rebellion.
I don't write fiction, at least not so far. I do occasionally write essays, but I think I mainly like, even in my essays, to feel the energy of a poem. I like the way a poem moves and the way it makes connections between things which are not narratively connected necessarily, but have other sorts of connections that can be suggested formally by the sound or the echo of an image or those sorts of things. So I think even in other kinds of writing, I'm interested in the same sorts of formal engines that make a poem run.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I could hear dialogues and just a kind of development of narrative, but very, very poetic, and for both of your work, everybody's. It's just really fantastic. So thank you so much for this reading. And if there are no more questions, I'd like to start off the open mic with Steve Honig.
Yep, I'm here.
Great. So just you can unmute yourself and read your.
Thank you. So I'd like to read a poem from a book that came out this summer, a book of poetry, Laertes in America. It's Laertes was both the father of Odysseus, who went searching for him, and the slayer of Hamlet. And the idea of America is that we're somewhere between being lost and violent. So that's the structure of the thing. However, there's some karma going on following Jennifer's reading about love, because the poem I selected is a sardonic take on love that sort of makes the point that love probably doesn't save us. And the poem is called Love Takes a Ride. Love leaves by the front door, riding on one harsh word too many that cannot be retrieved. Love leaves by the back door, pulled by unrequited desires that need to be bound in mystery. Love leaves up the chimney, incinerated by too much fire, the hearth consuming all the home. Love leaves through an open window, a careless error, encountering a wandering heart. Love is a random wanderer, by bus or car, or by train or train of thought, without known destination. But love can wander far and never find its way back, and then is said to have been lost. Love itself demurs, for it is in motion, in endless quest for new homes. When you find a love on offer, ask yourself, is it newborn, or is it merely on the road? Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
Hey, and next up is Chris O'Carroll.
Thank you, Mary. As many of you know, my home state, my native state, Massachusetts, is one of the states where cannabis is now legal. You can buy it at the store, you can grow it at home. I'm not a gardener myself, but I have friends who are, and they tell me this plant flourishes lavishly in our climate, and you can end up with a lot more crop than you might have been counting on. So this is abundant buzz. Our plants, they grow like weeds, are legal now. We raise these babies from prime proven seed, as many as our state laws will allow. Each year, we harvest more crop than we need. We press gift bags on friends and family, both herb and cookies, home baked with homegrown. Moist, chewy fruitcakes laced with THC, the minds of all our Christmas guests have blown. We're on the lookout for new recipes. Try skewered buds to garnish your martini. What can we do to make you take some? Please help! Ganja has become the new zucchini. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so thanks for that. You always take us on a ride with your work, Chris. So next up is Sharon Clarkson. So welcome, Sharon.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Since today is Sunday, I would like to share with you a poem from my book of poems. It's called Sound, and the book is called My Dream. You can see that My Dream Continues. It has romantic poetry and inspirational prose to soothe your soul. And this particular poem, the message behind it is that, believe it or not, God listens to you and he hears what you're saying, but do we take a moment and pause and listen for the sound of his voice? So again, the poem is called Sound, and it goes like this. The Lord pounded his fist unto the ground. There was a loud and rebounding sound. It bounced against the sky, got everybody's attention, and you know why. A cry and then a moan. God's energy had grown. One, two folds perhaps. We were all astonished. There were no gaps. His message clear for all to see. Be all that you can be. Impact the world is what he said. Go on ahead. For the world is now close to the end. When it comes, you will be judged then for your deeds and everyday feats. Will you be labeled an achiever, a believer, or simply a cheat? Sound. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Sharon. So much music. Adam Grabowski is up next. So welcome, Adam.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I wanted to say thank you to Jennifer, Peter, and Kieran for wonderful readings, and thank you to the New England Poetry Club for just keeping this going and doing a wonderful job. My first time here, and I'm happy. I'm really happy I showed up. I think inspired by Jennifer's work, I'm going to call up a poem. My printer's not working, so I'm reading this off a screen. And I'm never sure if I should read unpublished material, but I'm going to do it. And I think that's fine. I don't think Zoom counts, but it's all between you and me. The woman you'll lose me to. Will she arrive like a punch in the mouth, or root in between us, a tulip, a fungus? Will she be kind-spoken, one breast smaller than the other? Will she have a thing for large hands, two sons, and a third that died in the NICU? Will she be a writer? Will she teach high school biology? Do her parents love each other? Is her mother dead? Her father? Are the hands really going to be that big of an issue? Is she, despite her yellowed teeth, far prettier than you had expected, that you could accept? Is she none or several of these, a bouquet tossed in the air, now lodged in my chest? I have no idea, though I have been months' wife, scratching at your heart like a cat at the door, wanting to be let in, waiting for, I was never ready for this. Hour after disquieting our love, stirring over the three of us. Me You and some woman you had lost me to. And on Sunday nights, what would it be for she and I to drop the girls off, who, though happy to sleep in their beds again, are slowly learning to hate themselves, unable to decide which one of you they like best. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for that, Adam. And Michael Collins is next. Michael, welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Shall see where I am now with a poem. And it's been a wonderful time. So yes, I do thank you, and I thank all the poets. Okay. This is just a poem I wrote while lounging around, as the first line will give away. Laid down on the lounge, listened to the blues, read a gifted book from a poet's well, sent to me in the post. Phoned a friend today who informed me of his woes, and all I could think, this man has lost his way in this thing called life. Walked I to the woods where the grass grows tall in a silent midnight, the dark molasses black, profound in its quietude. Sought I for comfort in the breath of a lover who gave no favor and smiled her apology. And so it goes. Looked above, still as death, came thoughts, a torrent like rain, or a waterfall in constant flow, and a sky of stars saw me blink. Thank you very much, and thank you for the evening, or the morning.
Thank you for that, Michael.
Thank you.
And next up is Mike Ball. Mike.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. I don't do a whole lot of polemics, but this one is I think I got it covered because it's about water and it's wholesome and it's short. So, Poison Stripes. Nature, the artist, compels itself to daub in broad paintbrush over all before it, neither grunting nor sweating to change, rather wiping wide smears everywhere. Broad belts of plants, thick sashes of rock, and always immutable rivers of water. Swaths of wheat awns aging toward brown, climbing waves of hills with orchards. Of course, ponds, oceans, and rivers ever altering their strips of greens and blues. By factories and mills, metal and paper alike, prison stripes run bank to bank, fencing where the fish can breed from sudden lifeless waters. Jones and locked on steel on the broad and sluggish Monongahela, and likewise Luke Mills turning the Potomac gray. Each is a Cacatopian waterscape, ugly and toxic and too abrupt, yet stunning in its coloration. Deadly beauty atones for nothing. Thank you.
Wow, interesting. Deadly beauty. Thank you for that, Michael. And our last reader for today is Denise Washington, who's an NEPC advisory board member. Welcome, Denise.
Oh, thank you. This has been a wonderful time. And my poem is called Ha. Your lips are not only made for playing the trumpet. This I know. They have kissed my forehead and rubbed across my eyes, planted tiny suctions on my cheeks and blew wishes in the wind to my surprise, sending and transforming notes in the air, lyrical music that floated around my chin and landed in my hair. Your lips are not only made for playing your trumpet, this I know. I love your music sheets with compositions, penciled corrections, G Cliff, staff whole notes, and half allegro and andante tempos and arrangements written all over my body on your behalf. Ha.
Wow. Thank you for that. Ha is hot too. So that's good. Thank you. So thank you everyone for coming today. This is a great afternoon of poetry. Thank you to our poets. Thank you to Linda, who hosted so graciously, and to Hillary, who was working the Zoom controls. And thank you to our open mic readers. It's just really terrific. So take care, everyone, and see you again soon, I hope, on Zoom.
Thank you.
Yeah.